Okay, welcome to the video. Sig Guy here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut manual safety notches in your P365 grip module. If your grip looks like this, and you need it to look like this, I'm going to show you how to do that using the 365 multi-function tool. Let's get started. The 365 multi-function tool is a kit that you're buying. In the kit is the multi-function tool itself, as well as some accessories. It's going to come with a 16th drill bit, an emery board for some final cleanup, an X-Acto blade knife. It's going to come with the simulated FCU, which is needed to attach our adapter that cuts out our safety notch. And then it's going to come with a stainless steel pin that you insert in the hole like that and lock that adapter to the simulated FCU. So that's everything that's included in the kit. The only thing that's not included is a drill for the drill bit and some patience. So with that, let's start cutting out the manual safety notch in our Wilson Combat grip module. Let's take a closer look at the 365 multi-function tool. This is 3 tools in one. First off, we have a notch here in the bottom. If you have a hard time rotating your takedown lever on your 365, we're going to use that notch. We're going to slide it right over our takedown lever just like that, and we're going to rotate our takedown lever. Okay, so that is the first function in the multi-function tool. Another function would be a simulated FCU. So if you're like me and you have tons of grip modules and you have tons of slides, they're all thrown in a drawer or in your safe or whatever. If they're Cerakoted, you don't want them getting all scratched up. There's a much better way to store this stuff. We can take our trigger, or a trigger, and we can insert it in the side of the simulated FCU. You don't have to put a trigger in there, but if you got triggers kicking around, makes it look more realistic. So we're going to install our simulated FCU just like we would our regular FCU. We're going to take our receiver pin, put it right through the back here, and that's going to lock that right into place. And then we can take our slide, slide that right over our simulated FCU. And then we can even go one step further. If you have any of my pistol stands, you can stick that whole thing right on the pistol stand and store it just like that. Third function, and basically the whole reason why I designed this and came up with it, is to cut the safety notches in your grip module, okay? So as you can see, we got this cavity here in the back. If you want to use a Dremel tool to help you kind of locate where the notch needs to be, just know that your Dremel tool, if you run into the side of this, it's going to take material out of here as well, okay? These are both consumables, so if you get one use, you're going to get one use out of it. But if you get more than one use out of it, that's great, but it's not guaranteed. So when we lock this in there like that, we basically take our adapter, we slide it over it just like this. You're going to hear it click in place. Okay, and that's going to locate where our notch needs to be. If you want to lock it into place so you know that it's not going to be moving around on you where you're doing your drilling, I'm including a stainless steel pin that's going to lock it in like that. Note this is V2, different than V1 that I did a video on last week and posted it on there. It no longer uses the receiver pin to index our adapter, okay? It clicks into place, and then we use this stainless steel pin there. So you have to have the MFT, the 365 multifunction tool, with an adapter to do a notch. You can't just get an adapter and do the notch, okay? There are additional adapters sold separately. If you're going to have multiple grips, you're going to want multiple adapters, okay? Because drilling out these holes is going to ruin the pattern here, and I can't guarantee that the second time you do it, it's going to locate that notch exactly where it is It all depends on how accurate you are when you drill the holes. Okay, so that's the 365 multi-function tool, all 3 functions. Let's move on to cutting the safety notches out in this Wilson Combat Grip module. Once we have the tool installed in the grip module, we're going to use a receiver pin to lock it into place. That way that doesn't move around at all. Our adapter is locked into place using the stainless steel pin. That's not going anywhere. We're going to take our included 16th drill bit and we're going to drill out each 5 of these pre-drilled holes. Okay. I've switched to the hole design versus the slits in V1 because you could put this drill bit anywhere you wanted in those slits, and it's just much easier if you drill the holes exactly where they are and then go to cut out the holes after we're all done drilling. So let's install our drill bit into our drill. And then when we're drilling this, when we're drilling into the bottom holes, we want to be straight in and slightly up, okay? That way our drill bit, once we get through our grip module, is going into the open cavity in our simulated FCU body, not into the side of it, okay? So we're going to take and drill out these 5 holes. And then we're being very careful not to drill into our hand. And then on your top holes, you want to make sure you're going straight in or slightly down, not up, because you don't want to go above the grip like this, okay? So that's one side. Let's switch over to the other side. Now that we're all finished drilling our holes, we can remove the adapter. We'll remove our stainless steel pin, slide that off to the rear. We'll remove our receiver pin and remove the simulated FCU from the grip module. And then as you can see, we have located and drilled precisely where our manual safety notch needs to be located. Okay, so now that we have our holes all located, our next step is basically to cut out what's left in there, the notch from hole to hole. What I find easiest is if you, instead of just putting the razor blade in the hole in, I started an inside hole, and just pushing it in there, I try to put the blade on the outside edge of that hole and cut to the outside edge of the next hole. Let me zoom in here. So like I'm saying, instead of going from the middle of this hole up to the middle of the next hole, and then it leaves all this material on the inside there, I try to cut from the outside edge of this hole to the outside edge of the next hole, and that removes all that material, and then there's less cleanup to do, okay? If you started an inside hole, because of the shape of the razor blade, just pushing in, it does all the cutting. You don't have to sit here and kind of do this number working from the outside in. Very sharp. Okay, so if you cut yourself, I don't want to hear about it. Don't send me your bill from the hospital. So again, on the outside edge, just like that, when I push in, it basically just cut right through it just by pushing it in, and then we'll just keep going up, just like that. Okay. So now we'll do the same thing on the bottom, outside edge, just pushing it in. And then I would like to say, too, the less you take out, the better. Okay, don't try to get this all done in one step, and then you take out too much, because once you take it out, obviously you can't put it back. So just keep that in mind, okay? So then I just cut to the next hole there, and then be mindful of where your fingers are at. If this slips, you don't want to cut yourself. So as you can see, we just cut out the one side there. Yep. It looks pretty crude still, and we're going to clean all that up with the razor blade and the provided emery board, and then it's going to be perfect once we're all done. So let me do the other side, and then I'll show you how to clean this up. As you can see, I cut out the other side. And also, as crude as this looks, if you wanted to take a FCU, install it into your grip, it still works perfectly fine, as the notch is located where it needs to be. And you can't see any of the cutout. Okay, so if you're the kind that really just doesn't care how it looks, I guess you're all done. If you're like me and you got OCD, you basically want to make this all look like factory. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now we'll begin our cleanup with our razor blade. And what I found works best is if you use a white background, you can see the material that needs to be removed a lot easier than if it was against a black background. Okay, so maybe a piece of computer paper, put that down, put this right on top of it, kind of, look at an angle, and then you can see, all the high spots that need to be removed. So I'm just going to basically use my razor blade here. I'm going to just slowly work away at these high spots. Be mindful of which way your razor blade is facing. That way, if it slips, we don't cut our finger. So we're just going to kind of go all around it. Make sure I'm on camera. Also, these the notches are different. The front notch isn't the same as the rear notch, so don't try to get them to match, because then you're going to remove too much material, and you're going to be able to see a gap in between the grip and your FCU. And then you can come on the inside here, and get rid of those hairs. And this isn't the final cleanup. That's what the emery board's for. Make sure I'm on camera. Just trying to get as close to the edge of that hole as possible. Remember, once you take it out, you can't put it back. So maybe just keep test fitting it as you're cutting it. Basically, I'm going to keep whittling this down so it looks similar to my other side here, where you can't see the holes from the drill bit. Okay, so let me continue to clean this up, and then we'll move on to using our emery board to do the final cleanup. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. And then we're going to use our emery board that is supplied in the kit. And because we have both notches cut at the same time, we can kind of lay it across both surfaces, or you can do it one at a time. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to kind of lightly sand this. Again, just keep an eye on it. Once you remove it, you can't put it back. I mean, this is really lightly, all right? This does not... You do not have to get crazy with this. Just kind of keep working at it until you get it to where you're happy with it. And then what you can do when you're all done with it, carefully, I have a little torch here. You can use a lighter too, but if you just kind of go over it really quick, like that, it'll burn off those little hairs and kind of make it look more finished in the very end, okay? Now that we've cut our notch out, we can reinstall our FCU. And when we put our FCU into our grip, there's one thing we need to really pay attention to here. If you can't see straight through all the way in your receiver pinhole, that means your FCU is not sitting down in the grip far enough. The reason for that is you need to remove a little bit more material on the bottom here, as it's not letting your manual safety drop all the way, or your FCU to drop all the way into your grip module. Basically, underneath here, on your manual safety lever, goes down into this notch here. And if it can't go down far enough, it's not going to let your FCU go in far enough. So take your FCU out, get your razor blade, remove just a little bit more material here, a little bit more material here, test fit it. If it doesn't fit, keep doing it until it does fit. And then once it does fit, you can snap your FCU right into place. This is a brand new grip, so the pin goes in a little bit hard. And then basically we want to make sure that our manual safety easily clicks on and off. If it's not going very easily and you got to kind of really push at it, make sure that your notch has enough clearance all the way around it. You might have to remove a little bit more from the rear, from the front, from the bottom, whatever. Just little is better. So if you got to keep test fitting it multiple times, it's better than cutting too much and then being able to see a big hole out the side of your grip. I just want to go over XMacro non-safety grip modules. There is a difference between these and the rest of them. These are a lot thicker of a grip, okay? So I did not know this initially. But if you go to cut a manual safety notch in there and you go to put your manual safety FCU in it, you're going to know that your manual safety does not turn easily at all or rotate easily at all. As you can see, there's like no clearance between our manual safety and our grip itself on both sides and even here in the back, okay? And yes, that is a prototype to a new manual safety that's coming out any day now, so that's very exciting. Anyway, so once you get all done, you got your notch in there, you go to rotate your manual safety, and you're like, wow, this thing's moving really hard. So you start taking out a little bit more material here and everything, but that's not the problem. The problem is our clearance here, okay? So non-manual safety, XMacro, no-go. But your Wilson Combat non-manual safety grip modules, we're good to go because they can see Wilson Combat has molded a relief in the side here where your manual safety lever goes. That reduces the thickness here, and those are going to work perfectly fine once you drill your manual safety notch. So I just wanted to mention that so people that have the XMacro non-manual safety, they don't go and purchase this kit and then it does not work for them. It's because your grips are too thick. I just want to take a second to show people how to install a manual safety onto the 365. Maybe you bought one without it and you really want a manual safety on there. I mean, a lot of people do, and I get it. It's very easy to do. There's 3 pieces you're going to need. You're going to need your manual safety lever, which is right here. There's your part number. All these parts are available on sigguy.com. I sell a ton of this stuff. There's your detent. There's the part number. And here's the detent spring. And there's your part number as well. That's a really nice use of plastic, isn't it? For a little spring. Anyway, so we basically take our manual safety lever, and you got the bigger side here, which goes towards the left side. This is upside down, my FCU, okay? It's going to go towards the left side. And we have a little nub here on the bottom. That's going to kind of go in first and down underneath this little piece going across right here. So it's going to sit down there right in here. That little piece with the little nub's going to go underneath here. So we'll take that little nub, put it right underneath that cross member there, and then rotate that down and lay it right in there. Sometimes if you pull your trigger, it gets your trigger bar out of the way, and it lets that drop right down where it needs to be. Now, this has kind of got like 2 positions. Like right now, I can't rotate it because it's all the way to the left. If you push it in, then it will rotate. Okay? So once again, if it's out here, no rotate. Push it in, rotate. So while it's pushed in, we're going to take our manual safety detent spring. This little guy here. We're going to put it right in that hole in the bottom of that manual safety lever, that thick part. Slide it right in there. We're going to take our detent, which has a little nub. That little nub goes into the spring, okay? So that nub goes in first. And then on this here, you can see it's like a little flat tip screwdriver. Okay, it's got a little sharp edge there. That edge needs to be horizontal when we're looking at our FCU, and I'll show you that here in a second. So I'm going to put the detent in there just like this. And then you can see how that flat tip part is horizontal, not perpendicular, not going off at an angle, because it needs to go just like that inside our little cavity here that makes it work, okay? So again, we push it in, we start rotating it, and now I'm kind of holding it down with my finger, and that's kind of pinching the detent in between the barrel here and this portion here so it doesn't fall out. And then all I'm going to do very carefully is I'm going to push that detent in with my finger as this finger is rotating my manual safety, okay? If you need to use a screwdriver or something like that, that's fine. But just be aware, if that screwdriver slips off there, that detent can go shooting across the room. So I'm just going to push this in with my finger as I'm rotating it with my other finger. And then you can see it locks it right into that first cavity. And then it's in the second cavity right there. So that's how your detent works. And then if you want to remove it, you just get a little pick inside in the front of that detent. Push that detent in a little bit as you're rotating this lever up. And then once that detent comes out of the cavity there, it's going to want to shoot. So make sure you have your finger over that detent so it doesn't go flying across the room. Okay, so that's how you install the manual safety into your non-manual safety 365 grip. And there's guys from California and everything on here now, so a lot of these guys are just learning the 365. All FCUs are identical no matter which 365 you get it out of. This can be added on afterwards, and this is exactly how it would come from the manufacturer. If that wasn't on there, that's exactly how it comes from the manufacturer. Okay, so there is no differences between FCUs, between manual safety and non-manual safety. And there you have it. It is that easy to add a manual safety notch to a non-manual safety grip using the 365 multi-function tool. If you got a drawer full of grips that don't have the notch and you got a manual safety 365, this is a great inexpensive way to get those grips to work with that 365. Or maybe you just wanted to add a manual safety to your 365. I can understand it. Buy the manual safety parts, get the multi-function tool, modify your grip, and you're good to go. As always, anytime we're working on our firearm, our last step is to do a functions check to make sure everything works fine. Because we're going to be pulling the trigger, we want to make sure we are clear and safe. So no magazine, physically and visually check to make sure there's no round in the chamber. Check our breech face, look away, do the same thing again. Magazine, chamber, breech face. We are working on a clear and safe firearm. So we're going to start off by muzzle in a safe direction, pull our trigger, everything works fine. Check our reset. We're going to rack our slide while holding our trigger to the rear. Reset works normal. Pull the trigger. Everything works fine still. We're going to rack our slide. Apply our manual safety. Trigger does not work. Release our safety. Everything works normal. So if this had a magazine release, this pistol would be ready to return to service. Lastly, I just want to remind everybody once again, these are consumables, okay? That's why they're so cheap. They're not expected to last forever. It all depends on how careful you are with it. As you can see on mine here, I got into the rear of it with a drill bit a little bit. No big deal. It doesn't matter. That doesn't do anything other than if I wanted to use a Dremel. As long as I don't get my rail, my slide will go on fine. I can still use it as a takedown tool, and I can still use it as a simulated FCU. So we could put a trigger in this, stick it down into our grip module, put our receiver pin in there, slide our slide on there, stick this on our pistol stand, and store that baby right in our safe or where we're keeping our firearms secure. As always, I want to take a second to appreciate or let everybody know I appreciate them for everything that they've done for me. And if you like this type of content, there'll be a subscribe button right down here in the corner. If you could smash that baby, I'd really appreciate it. If you're interested in the 365 multi-function tool, they're available on SigGuy.com, as well as aftermarket parts and factory parts for just about all SIG pistols out there. We are constantly adding more and more product all the time. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day.